Good morning. In today's headlines, Congressman Kevin McCarthy is out as House Speaker after a vote to vacate his seat, leaving leadership in question. Find out more on the historic move and reactions from lawmakers.
What's next as the House searches for a new speaker? Who could replace McCarthy? We get some insight from a former campaign advisor. A flurry of federal indictments against Chinese chemical companies aim at halting production of fentanyl. We have the details. The highest profile case U.S. prosecutors ever brought against a former cryptocurrency executive, Sam Bankman-Fried's fraud trial has started. What's unfolding?
It seems Panda diplomacy between the U.S. and China has failed. The D.C. National Zoo is set to return 3 bears to China, saying it's the end of an era.
Parents thinking about a flu shot for your kids, a potent neurotoxin is still in flu vaccines. An investigative journalist tells us how to keep safe. Good morning. Welcome to NTD. I'm Kevin Hogan.
Good morning. I'm Evelyn Lee. Today's Wednesday, October 4th.
Well, the House is effectively paralyzed without a speaker.
Well, yeah, it's some, government fighting boiling over, and it just really makes you wonder how they can put or where they can put the priority at this point, because they can't really do business until they pick a new leader.
Yeah, and Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene is saying that Trump should be the speaker. So go figure.
Well, but let's cut to the chase here. Like Kevin just mentioned, Congressman Kevin McCarthy was voted out as House Speaker last night. 8 Republicans joined a majority of Democrats in ousting him through a motion to vacate. It's the first time in U.S. history the House has successfully voted to remove its Speaker. NTD's Jeremy Sandberg has more on McCarthy's removal.
The office of Speaker of the House of the United States House of Representatives is hereby declared vacant.
In a historic vote of 216 to 210 Tuesday, the House voted to remove McCarthy from his Speaker position, leaving the Republican Party's leadership in question. Lawmakers attempted to stop the process with a vote to table the motion, but failed. 11 Republicans opposed it in a vote of 208 to 218. A number of Republicans came to McCarthy's defense during an intense debate, but not enough to keep McCarthy in the Speaker's role. The 8 Republicans that joined Democrats in the vote are Representatives Matt Gaetz, Andy Biggs, Ken Buck, Tim Burchett, Eli Crane, Bob Good, Nancy Mace, and Matt Rosendale. McCarthy, after the vote, said the matter was personal.
You all know Matt Gaetz.
And that he doesn't regret efforts to negotiate, build coalitions, and find solutions.
I believe I can continue to fight, maybe in a different manner. I will not run for Speaker again. I'll have the conference pick somebody else.
House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries reacted, saying it was a solemn and sober moment. He asked House Republicans to live up to their traditional ideals and break from what he called extremists to end the chaos.
We are ready, willing, and able to work together with our Republican colleagues, but it is on them to join us to move the Congress and the country forward.
I think that this represents the ripping off of the Band-Aid.
The move to oust McCarthy came after he cut a deal with Democrats to push through a temporary spending bill to avoid a government shutdown. Congressman antagonist Matt Gaetz filed the motion Monday saying McCarthy had relied on Democrat votes, reneged on promises, and had allegedly made secret backroom deals with Democrats on Ukraine. It took 15 rounds for McCarthy to win the gavel this year. He held it for 9 months. To secure the speakership, McCarthy agreed to accept a rule change that allows a single member to bring forth a motion to vacate at any time. The last time the U.S. House voted on a motion to vacate was in 1910. It was unsuccessful. Representative Patrick McHenry is serving as interim speaker under the title of Speaker pro tempore. GOP representatives say a vote on a new speaker is planned for next week, Wednesday, but that it will be a challenge to find anyone with enough support from both parties to win the gavel. Jeremy Sandberg, NTD News.
Former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi says interim Speaker McHenry has ordered her to vacate her office in the Capitol building. An email sent from McHenry's office to Pelosi's office Tuesday evening said the space will be reassigned for Speaker use.
It also instructed Pelosi to have her things out by today. Pelosi called the eviction a sharp departure from tradition. NTD's Daniel Monahan has the reactions of lawmakers and a look at who the next speaker could be.
Representative Derek Van Orden criticized the vote, saying it will cast the country into chaos.
They're going to claim that they're conservative. They're going to claim that what they're doing is for the betterment of everything, and it's not true.
While Congressman Jamie Raskin brushed aside McCarthy's ouster.
Right-wing Republicans have to solve the problems that right-wing Republicans create, okay? And so the civil war within the Republican Party has nothing to do with us.
Congressman Tim Burchett says he took no joy in his vote against McCarthy, likening it to a cut with a dull blade.
I know in my heart I was doing the right thing. And last night, you know, my daddy used to say, you know what I do at night? I said, what's that, Daddy? He said, I sleep. And I slept like a baby last night.
Representative Nancy Mace also voted against McCarthy.
For me, it's not ideological. It's about having a leader in our nation who will tell the truth, who you can trust. And that's what the American people deserve.
Former Vice President Mike Pence said he was deeply disappointed that Republicans and Democrats would join to oust the speaker.
Well, let me say that chaos is never America's friend.
But presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy had his own take on such so-called chaos.
If we're dependent on our enemy for our modern way of life, and we have people who are bought and paid for in Washington, D.C. by special interests and a class of lobbyists and a class of super PAC puppet masters, and we keep marching to our same fate, are we really sure that chaos is such a bad thing?
Representative Matt Gaetz says the conservative agenda was being paralyzed by McCarthy.
We hadn't even sent a subpoena to Hunter Biden. Our oversight was lackluster. Our spending priorities were misaligned.
The congressman also commented on a possible next speaker.
I think the world of Steve Scalise. I think he'd make a phenomenal speaker.
Congressman Jim Jordan has also been floated as a possible new speaker. And Majority Whip Tom Emmer and House GOP Conference Chair Elise Stefanik have also been mentioned. Representative Troy Nehls nominated former President Donald Trump to be the next speaker on X. The House Speaker does not have to be a member of Congress, according to the U.S. Constitution. Daniel Monahan, NTD News.
We're going to explore more about the first speaker being removed by a House vote. Bart Marcois, former presidential campaign policy advisor, joins us live. Good morning, Bart.
Good morning, Kevin. How are you?
I'm doing great, and I want to know, and now that House Speaker McCarthy has been ousted, what's next?
Well, the next order of business is they must elect a new speaker. Without a new speaker, they can't do the other business of the House. The Speaker pro tem only has the power to administer votes sufficient to elect a new speaker.
So who could replace McCarthy?
There are a number of people. I think the most likely person is going to be Steve Scalise. Steve Scalise is certainly one of the candidates. You've seen several people say they would love to see Donald Trump there. It is constitutionally permitted for any person, any American citizen, to be elected Speaker of the House. It's highly unlikely that they would elect Donald Trump or that he would do it if elected, but that is a constitutional possibility. Another candidate is Tom Emmer. He's in the leadership now. He's the number 2 person after, first one after Steve Scalise. Both good candidates. Emmer has said, even after McCarthy said he wouldn't run, Emmer has said he's not interested in running. Scalise has made a few comments to people. He's quietly collecting votes, counting votes, seeing whether he has support.
So what is behind the appeal for Scalise?
Scalise is he is an honest leader. The thing that really got Kevin McCarthy, really punished him, was that people literally did not trust him. He was glib. He would make promises, and the very thing that brought him down was he promised to the Freedom Caucus, elect me, just elect me, please elect me Speaker. I'll do anything. I'll even let you move to vacate the chair with just a single member. It used to be you had to have 5 or 15 or 20 to make that motion. He was just desperate to be Speaker. He was desperate to hold on to power. And he made deals with the Democrats that were not good for the country and that the mass of the American people disapprove of, especially regarding spending. And
right. Yeah, we've seen Speaker McCarthy preside over the negotiations to raise the debt ceiling here. Now, the House plans to leave for a week, and then they'll be back for a Speaker election next Wednesday. But what does this all mean about the cohesion among House Republicans?
Oh, there's never been such a thing as cohesion among elected Republicans. The Democrats are always cohesive because what they care about is power. The Republicans care about principle. And those who care about power try to make deals, and those who care about principle are willing to blow up deals to fight for principle. And that's what you're seeing. They will cohere eventually around a speaker candidate, whether it's Scalise or Emmer or Jim Jordan or somebody else, but they will cohere around a speaker. And I don't think it will take as long as it took to elect Kevin McCarthy.
And why is that?
Because McCarthy was a flawed candidate from the beginning. There were people that were suspicious of him all along, but he was the first in line, and he had consolidated votes sufficient to deny everybody else. And those who had a chance to run against him did not want to start a fight. Scalise, in particular, did not want to fight with McCarthy. And now that McCarthy is out, there's nothing to stop Scalise and some of the others that have more support and less opposition to prevent them from running, and I think that they'll do well.
So Bart, the reason for McCarthy's ouster was sentiment from the hardliners. Is there any chance that a hardliner would become Speaker?
Not in a million years. No, there is enough opposition to the hardliners. There's enough anger at them, and they know that. I would love to see Jim Jordan be Speaker. He's not a hardliner like Matt Gaetz, but there are those on the left edge of the Republican caucus that are too suspicious of him. That's the beauty of somebody like Scalise or Emmer. They have support from. They don't have stiff, deep opposition from anybody within the party, and that's what's necessary right now.
Right. Excellent analysis. Bart Marcois, former presidential campaign policy advisor, thank you for your time.
Thanks, Kevin. It's a pleasure, as always.
Just ahead, Kari Lake lost her bid to be governor of Arizona. Now she's planning a Senate run. Hear more about her new political aspirations.
The judge in Trump's New York fraud case has imposed a gag order on the former president. Find out why and the latest from the courthouse.
Hunter Biden in court to face 3 felony counts. It's the first time a child of a sitting president is fighting criminal charges in court.
The Justice Department has indicted Chinese chemical companies in an effort to stop fentanyl distribution. Learn more on that after the break.
Shen Yun Creations, the streaming platform from Shen Yun, featuring world-class dance, past programs, and all original music. Masterclasses, behind the scenes, comedy, and more. Explore shenyuncreations.com.
Say goodbye to harsh, bitter coffee and hello to a delicious, smooth brew. With specialty quality beans, expertly roasted in-house, you'll taste the difference with every sip. Fermented with a blend of 50 enzymes, Days Coffee delivers a rich brew like no other. Made with the highest grade specialty beans available, you're sure to taste the difference. Elevate your morning with Days Enzyme Fermented Coffee.
Is deep sea fish oil really healthy? Due to pollution in the oceans, most fish contain heavy metal elements and radioactive substances. That's why it's so important to choose a pure source of omega-3. Puritang green vegetable omega-3 is made from purslane and perilla seeds, which are rich in nutrients and minerals, especially vitamins A, D, E, calcium, and iron. With natural processing and no harmful chemical additives, it has more than 90% concentration of omegas 3, 6, 7, and 9. It effectively improves brain power and is beneficial to the heart's health. Puritang omega-3 does not smell of fish and contains no pollutants, so both adults and children can safely and easily consume it over a long period of time. Puritang green vegetable omega-3, greener, healthier, and more effective. Visit puritang.com to learn more.
Hey Bobo, do trees tell each other stories?
I'm sorry, I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, why don't we go find out? Listen.
Do clouds take naps?
I couldn't tell you.
Dad, do stars visit their friends?
Look!
Welcome back. Judge Arthur Engoron hit Trump with a gag order related to a social media post Trump made about a court clerk yesterday and warned there will be consequences if it happens again. Meanwhile, the state's first witness, Donald Bender, returned to the stand. NTD's Arlene Richards was on the scene.
Bender is an accountant who worked for the Trump organization for decades. The state's attorney questioned the witness document by document dating back to 2011 up to 2020. Bender testified that the Trump defendants were responsible for providing the valuations contained in the financial statements. He said that he had no knowledge of whether or not they were fraudulent and that if he knew, he would not have submitted them. This testimony supports the state's contention that the Trump defendants repeatedly committed fraud by inflating the valuation of their assets. On cross-examination, the defense established that there are accounting laws that should be considered in this case, which would show that the defendants acted lawfully, and that Bender should have been aware of those laws during his review. Bender admitted that he worked for the Trump organization for at least 30 years and that the Trump organization frequently consulted him about its entities and other business matters. The defense repeatedly questioned Bender about why he failed to alert Trump in 2017 about a significant error on the financial statement. Bender said he missed it. The former president said he will return to the court on Wednesday.
Hunter Biden also appeared in court yesterday, pleading not guilty to gun charges. One big question, are there political implications for his father's run for a second term in the White House? NTD's Melina Wisecup has the story.
For the first time, the president's son is fighting criminal charges in federal court. Hunter Biden is on the hook for 3 felony charges. Prosecutors argue that Hunter Biden possessed a firearm illegally while addicted to drugs and then lied about it. When he arrived at this courthouse for the arraignment at 10 a.m. this morning, that entire arraignment process took less than half an hour, and the judge says that Hunter Biden has passed multiple rounds of drug tests that he's taken since July when that original plea deal fell apart. As for the political implications for President Biden himself, Democrats on Capitol Hill have repeatedly argued that his son's actions should cast no shadow over the image of the sitting president. Meanwhile, Republicans argue that the DOJ gave Hunter Biden special treatment and slow-walked the case.
Hunter Biden's not on the ballot.
I think the only thing the president is guilty of is being a father, and I mean that sincerely.
If we weren't in a majority, nobody would be knowing anything about any of this stuff, and the Department of Justice was going to cover it up like they've been doing the last several years.
And if DOJ and the FBI and IRS have seen and would investigate what we've seen and would do this investigation, I imagine this will be the first of many indictments for Hunter Biden.
So if they are going to say there should be more charges against Hunter Biden, they don't know what they're talking about.
Meanwhile, House Republicans are continuing to probe Hunter Biden's foreign business deals, trying to tie that foreign cash flow back to the president himself. Now, as for this particular case that Hunter Biden faced here in this courthouse today, his lawyers will ultimately try to dismiss the case, mainly using a recent Supreme Court ruling on guns. Reporting from Wilmington, Delaware, Melina Weisskopf, NTD News.
Former Arizona gubernatorial candidate Kari Lake has filed papers to make a run for a U.S. Senate seat. Lake is an ally of former President Trump. She ran for Arizona governor last year but lost to Democrat Katie Hobbs. Her year-long court battle to get the election overturned was also unsuccessful. Kyrsten Sinema currently holds the seat as an independent. Lake's entry into the race will make it a three-candidate election if Sinema runs again. Lake is expected to announce her candidacy officially next week.
A federal appeals court has expanded the limits on the Biden administration's communications and social media companies.
The court now says a ruling will also apply to a top U.S. cybersecurity agency.
The ruling came last month from the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals located in New Orleans. It severely limits the ability of the administration to communicate with social media companies.
Specifically on content related to COVID and elections that the government views as misinformation. The previous ruling applied to the White House, the Surgeon General, the CDC, and the FBI.
Now, in a new opinion, the court says it also applies to the U.S. Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency.
That agency is charged with protecting non-military networks from hacking and other homeland security threats.
The Biden administration is taking action against fentanyl trafficking. The Justice Department yesterday announced indictments against Chinese chemical companies and employees tied to the fentanyl trade. The 8 indictments charge 8 China-based companies and 12 employees with crimes relating to fentanyl and meth production, distribution of synthetic opioids, and sales resulting from precursor chemicals. Federal prosecutors accused some Chinese companies of shipping chemicals used to make fentanyl to the U.S. and Mexican drug cartels under fake labels. None of the defendants have been arrested so far. The Treasury Department also said it imposed sanctions on 28 people and entities involved, including a large China-based network.
And we know that this global fentanyl supply chain, which ends with the deaths of Americans, often starts with chemical companies in China.
I have ordered my colleagues at the Treasury Department to expand our targeting approach to include the friends, family members, and affiliates of criminals that benefit from the sale of these drugs. If you benefit from the proceeds of these illicit activities, we're going to come after your assets.
Fentanyl is the deadliest drug in the U.S. today. The CDC says drug overdose deaths have increased more than 7-fold from 2015 to 2021.
More than 100,000 deaths a year have been linked to drug overdoses since 2020, and about 2/3 of those are related to fentanyl. Arizona Governor Katie Hobbs says she is terminating state land leases for a Saudi-owned farm. The lease has provided the farm with nearly unfettered access to pump groundwater in the dry southwestern state for years. Hobbs said yesterday that the state had canceled Fondamonte, Arizona's lease in western Arizona's Butler Valley. The state will also not renew 3 other leases next year owing to violations of some of the company's lease terms, which include the company's storage of hazardous materials. Fondamonte, Arizona is a subsidiary of Saudi dairy giant Almari. The company grows alfalfa in Arizona that feeds livestock in the water-stressed Gulf Kingdom. The company acquired the land in 2014. The worsening drought in Arizona has brought renewed attention to the company's water use and broader issues surrounding foreign-owned farms and groundwater pumping. Current Arizona law permits almost unlimited pumping from underground aquifers in rural areas. A spokesperson for the company said it would appeal the decision. How do they even farm in that rugged desert?
Well, I don't know. Well, it definitely seems like there needs to be something updated there.
Yeah, and constituents should be concerned if this is a foreign company refining the water and taking the water from their own aquifers.
Yeah, and then there's that. That's right. We're heading to break now, though.
Sam Bankman-Fried's trial has started with him possibly facing life in prison. We take a closer look.
And is Amazon using a secret algorithm to raise prices for consumers? New details emerge from the FTC's lawsuit.
It's X versus X. In the latest federal lawsuit, an advertisement agency called X Social Media is suing Elon Musk for rebranding Twitter to X Corp. Stay tuned for that.
Two neurosurgeons couldn't figure out anything that was wrong with me or what I would need surgery for. Dr. Benatti, without even seeing me, knew I was hurting, knew they could help me. First time I came in here was Monday, and today is Thursday. I've had 2 surgeries and am doing fantastic. I'm still in shock that I can walk. That's all within 4 days.
Visit AskBenatti.com.
How prepared is your family if a tornado shows up at your doorstep, or a flood, or a hurricane? You can't just turn away a natural disaster. That's why it's important to go to ready.gov/plan now. It has the tools and tips you need to make an emergency plan with your family. So if disaster comes knocking, let's go. You'll be ready to help keep your family safe.
It's just a pizza. Yes.
Make a plan today.
Anyone who's ever sold a home can tell you it is really hard. That's why who you work with matters. Together with HomeLight, we've helped thousands of people sell faster and for the best price.
Imagine a coffee that cares for your health. Expertly fermented with a 50-enzyme complex to enhance flavor and remove bitterness. Small batch roasted to a decadent medium dark, resulting in a brew that is gentle on digestion, low acid, and up to 90% less caffeine than regular coffee. Try America's first enzyme fermented coffee today.
When you start buying into evolution, you've opened a door to say you don't have to trust the Bible completely.
Evolution in millions of years is the greatest myth ever forced on the minds of men.
It's not science versus religion. It's a worldview clash.
Explore the evidence. Experience the creation. And discover the truth. Because the truth will set you free. Genesis, Paradise Lost.
Good to have you back. The trial of FTX founder Sam Bankman-Fried has started. He's facing 7 charges, including securities fraud, wire fraud, and conspiracy to launder money. We want to get some more insights into this trial. To do this, let's bring in Kevin Stockland, reporter for the Epoch Times and a former Wall Street banker. Good morning, Kevin. It's really good to have you. Now, to start, Sam Bankman-Fried. Great to have you. Sam Bankman-Fried said that he never really knowingly committed fraud and that he was just new to business and followed his lawyer's advice. Now, I want to know from you, what do you make of that?
Well, this is going to be his claim, and he said this in interviews since charges were brought, that he really didn't know what was going on, and this is really just a case of mismanagement, and there's no fraud here. What he's up against, unfortunately, is that 3 of his former senior colleagues have pled guilty to charges of securities fraud, and they are expected to testify against him. The prosecution is going to try to make a case of intent here, that he intended to defraud investors, and he's going to say, well, it was just mismanagement. We'll see what his former colleagues have to say.
Yeah, his former colleagues will definitely play a big part here. And what about the jury selection? That will continue today. What do we know about the challenges they face there? Also considering that, the crypto industry just seems quite complicated to understand.
Well, these are the challenges for the prosecution. So, as you say, they have to present their case in a way that your average person can really understand it. The jury selection process right now is trying to determine some degree of impartiality. Can people make judgments, without having any bias on this case? As we know, Mr. Bankman-Fried was very wealthy and spent quite a lot of money. And so among the questions that they're asking is it wrong for executives to be compensated to the tune of tens of millions of dollars and things like this? So all these questions are trying to get at whether the jury can make an unbiased decision in this case.
And then, of course, there is the question of what will happen to those investors and creditors that were involved in that collapse and lost money. What do you think will happen to their money?
Well, so there's two issues. One is the folks that invested in the cryptocurrency FTT. That currency is worthless, so the likelihood of them getting their money back on that investment is probably near zero. But the other issue is how much money was stolen from this firm. And as we know, tens of millions of dollars have been donated by Sam Bankman-Fried and by FTX to politicians. Last February, the lawyers for FTX have attempted to reach out to these politicians and political action committees that received this money, demanding that they give it back. A few of them have, many of them have not. So there's some threats that they may sue them and try to get that money back. I would say good luck.
Right. And to Bankman-Fried, he was a familiar face on Capitol Hill, right? So then came, of course, the downfall. How do you think Bankman-Fried has been influencing the crypto industry?
I mean, he was one of the largest single donors to the Biden election campaign in 2020. He was the second largest donor after George Soros to the Democratic Party and Democratic PACs during the midterms. And he was frequently consulted by regulators. In fact, there's allegations that he had a private meeting with Gary Gensler, who's the chairman of the SEC, back in March 2022. So it seems that he had a significant amount of influence on efforts to regulate. Obviously, that's no longer the case today. So regulators are they recently actually brought charges against Binance, which is the largest cryptocurrency exchange. That was done in June. So there definitely will be more regulation in this space.
Right. Thank you so much for taking this time this morning, touching all these points with your insights. Thank you, Kevin Stocklin. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
Is Amazon using a secret algorithm to raise prices for consumers? Details are coming out during the Federal Trade Commission's monopoly lawsuit against the company.
The Wall Street Journal reported Tuesday that it viewed redacted portions of the Federal Trade Commission, or FTC's, lawsuit against Amazon. The documents reportedly show that Amazon abused its position in the e-commerce sector and used an algorithm known as Project Nessie to artificially raise prices for consumers. The lawsuit alleges this algorithm tests how much it could raise prices so that competitors would follow suit. Sources familiar with the matter told the paper that the algorithm helped Amazon make more than $1 billion in revenue. Amazon says it no longer uses Project Nessie. An Amazon spokesman responded to the lawsuit saying, "The FTC's allegations grossly mischaracterized this tool. Project Nessie was a project with a simple purpose: to try to stop our price matching from resulting in unusual outcomes where prices become so low that they were unsustainable." The FTC spokesman said, "We once again call on Amazon to move swiftly to remove the redactions and allow the American public to see the full scope of what we allege are their illegal, monopolistic practices." The FTC in 17 states filed their anti-monopoly lawsuit against Amazon in federal court last month. They alleged that the online retailer is violating federal and state antitrust laws.
X, formerly known as Twitter, is getting sued by a legal marketing company with a similar name. The marketing company claims the social media giant's new name infringes on its branding and leads to consumer confusion. Here's NTD's Eileen Ang with more.
X Social Media is suing X Corp, formerly known as Twitter. The Florida-based company sued Elon Musk's company in federal court in Florida on Monday. They claim Musk's new name for Twitter infringes on their trademark by incorporating the letter X. Musk began the rebranding back in July, which has caused some consumer confusion. The case appears to be the first of what could be numerous trademark disputes with Musk's company over the letter X, which is commonly used in tech branding. X is included in hundreds of federal trademarks owned by companies including Microsoft and Meta platforms. X Corp applied for its own U.S. trademarks covering the letter last month. According to its website, X Social Media is an ad agency focused on mass tort litigation. The lawsuit said the agency has used the X Social Media name since 2016 and owns a federal trademark covering it. It has invested more than $400 million in Facebook advertising to reach potential clients. The company said Twitter's rebrand has already confused customers and caused it to lose revenue. X Social Media asked the court to force Musk's company to stop using the X name and requested an unspecified amount of money damages.
We're going to switch up gears here and bring you some of the latest headlines.
Police in Baltimore are looking for a suspect after 5 people were injured in a shooting. Police say the shooting occurred near Morgan State University last night after a homecoming event.
It happened shortly after the coronation of Mr. and Miss Morgan State at the Murphy Fine Arts Center. Authorities were first alerted to the shooting at around 10 p.m. Police issued a shelter-in-place order, which was lifted shortly after midnight.
Police say 4 men and 1 woman were injured, but none of their injuries were life-threatening. Investigators are unclear on how many shooters were involved in the incident. The university's president said all of today's classes are canceled.
An emergency meeting is planned for today to decide whether to hold other events in the run-up to the school's homecoming game scheduled for Saturday. Morgan State University currently has about 9,000 students.
An 11-year-old Florida boy was arrested for shooting 2 teenagers Monday night. All 3 were at football practice. One shot hit both victims, one in the arm and the other in the torso. One victim was treated and released, and the other remains hospitalized. Police say the 11-year-old got the gun from an unlocked box in his mother's car. The boy has been charged with second-degree attempted murder. The reason for the shooting is unknown.
A senior Pentagon official was charged for his alleged decades-long involvement in a dogfighting ring. Frederick Moorfield Jr. was a Deputy Chief Information Officer at the DoD. A Pentagon spokesperson told The Hill that Moorfield is no longer in the workplace. He didn't say if he was suspended or allowed to retire.
Well, of course, our thoughts go out to the shooting victims, but also it's pretty unheard of how young children like this can actually get a hold of guns that easily. Well, there should be more respect to how to handle those weapons in the household or wherever you store them.
Yes, they are dangerous weapons, and of course the cause is unknown, but it did follow an altercation at a football practice.
Right. Well, heading to break now, the clock is ticking on what could be the largest healthcare strike in U.S. history. Tens of thousands of Kaiser Permanente workers await the outcome of contract talks this morning. Our business host, Don Ma, has the latest.
And pandas could be gone from America's zoos by the end of next year, with panda diplomacy being between the U.S. and China breaking down. We have the details after this short break.
First time I came in here was Monday, and today is Thursday. I've had 2 surgeries and am doing fantastic. I'm still in shock that I can walk. That's all within 4 days. In 4th grade, I was diagnosed with scoliosis. I had 70 and 60-degree curvatures. Went to Shriners Hospital in LA. It's been fused ever since. I noticed a lot of pain going down my left buttock into my thighs and into my calf. I could be standing there and my legs would just go out. I went through pain management for 2.5 years, and the pain management specialist told me there was nothing more he could do for me. We actually did our own research, and next thing I know, Dr. Benatti called and he told me immediately over the phone what my issue was without even seeing me. I was in a twilight stage during surgery. and you can actually say, where are you feeling that pain? And it immediately stops.
Hold the leg up there. No pain here?
No.
No pain here?
No.
No pain on the butt?
No. All of a sudden, they're all, do you want to get up and walk? Well, I couldn't walk before, and I got up and I just started crying because I had no pain. And I had all my weight on my left leg and on my right leg, and I walked a straight line with no assistance, no falling, no grabbing onto the walls, nothing. I held my own weight. And that's the first time in months that I was able to walk by myself.
Bonatti succeeds where others fail. For more stories like these and the rest of our program, check out American Medicine Today, featuring cutting-edge medical and science innovators, previous surgical guest of the Bonatti Spine Institute, and a medical professional's insight on political issues plaguing our nation. American Medicine Today, Sunday 6 p.m. and Wednesday at 2:30 on NTD Television and other streaming platforms.
Here you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's a painting that is peaceful. There's a lot of beauty in it. And you forget about whatever you might be worried about.
Welcome back. We are hours away from a possible healthcare strike. Kaiser Permanente appears headed for a labor clash with 75,000 of its healthcare workers. Here with us live now is NTD business host Don Ma to tell us more. Don, good morning. So what is the situation right now?
Yeah, so union leaders said contract talks had stalled yesterday, and the union has set a deadline of 9 a.m. Eastern time today to reach a tentative deal. And we're fast approaching that deadline, Evelyn. As of Tuesday, the coalition of Kaiser Permanente unions said the healthcare giant had yet to offer an acceptable term to address severe staffing shortages or improvements in pay and benefits. Negotiations actually broke off on Tuesday afternoon, so more than 75,000 could walk off the job. And the latest is I'm already seeing hundreds start to walk off the job even before the deadline. The strike would last 3 days, and it will be in several states.
Oh, it seems like it's really happening then. So which states will be impacted the most?
Union officials had said this planned strike against Kaiser will be the largest strike ever. Let's just keep that in mind. It'll be very huge in the U.S. medical industry. And the union has workers in hundreds of hospitals across California, Oregon, Washington State, Colorado, Virginia, and Washington, D.C. But even so, about 60% of Kaiser's workforce would actually remain on the job. This is because Georgia, Hawaii, and most of Washington State would not be affected. In Virginia and Washington, D.C., only optometrists and pharmacists would go on strike. But the impact on patients in California and Colorado, Oregon, and part of Washington State would be more substantial compared to others. We're inching closer to the deadline now, but a Kaiser spokesperson said yesterday that they're still optimistic. There's still a chance to reach a deal before 9 a.m. deadline. So we'll see in about an hour what happens, but right now some people are already starting to walk off the job.
Right, let's see if they will come through actually in an hour and 15 minutes. But I think you had two more points for us, so fill us in on that, please.
Yeah, the first is
Google's making some changes to cut down on email spam. The problem has become serious and Google is fighting back. Anyone who sends more than 5,000 emails a day will have to authenticate their email address. Email recipients will be offered a one-click unsubscribe button. The sender will be required to process the unsubscribe request within 2 days. The changes will begin in February. That's the first thing to note today. And the other one is at 2:20 p.m. FEMA will test its nationwide emergency alert system. Every wireless phone will go off. You will receive a text saying this is a test. Your TV and radio will also sound the alarm at the same time. The system was created to notify people of national emergencies. No action is required by you during this test. The system hasn't been tested nationally since 2021, so I guess it's time due for that. But other than those two updates, that's all from me this morning.
Yeah, thanks for the heads up, Don, and looking forward to that new button on Gmail. Thank you so much. Don, host of NTD Business.
Yeah, thank you so much, Evelyn.
A former swimmer who thought women's fairness in sports issues were behind her now stands up for her sister. Here's NTD's Dave Martin on what drives her to speak out.
It was just a year and a half ago that University of Penn swimmer Lia Thomas, formerly known as Will, won the women's 500-yard freestyle event at the NCAA Championships. Now, the victory made national headlines as Thomas, whose ranking jumped from 462nd in the men's division to first in the women's, became a hero to most in the national media. But for those women who were in the competition and had to change in the locker room with him, the feeling was anything but.
I wish you could have seen the faces and the tears on the pool deck at the NCAA meet. You know, I stood on the sidelines. I didn't directly compete with Lia Thomas, but I was there and I changed in the locker rooms with him. I was in that environment and I saw the faces, I saw the tears, I saw the disappointment.
Caitlin Wheeler, who was a swimmer for the University of Kentucky for the last 4 years, is now in grad school, yet her experiences with biological men coming into women's sports, as well as our locker rooms, didn't really end upon graduation.
I have a little sister who's still swimming, and she had an instance where men were changing in the locker rooms at her swim team. She practiced at a YMCA. And when she spoke up about it, she was removed from her swim team. She was actually banned from a YMCA of all places.
Caitlin's sister Abigail, who's 6 years younger, actually got more than 200 signatures in a petition to keep men out of their locker room before the Y banned her instead. The two incidents made Caitlin realize the issue wasn't going away, even though her swimming career finally had.
And so I realized that I think it's time to join the fight, because hopefully that will encourage more people to stand up and speak out.
Caitlin has joined friend and former University of Kentucky teammate Riley Gaines at Gaines Leadership Institute as an ambassador. The lifelong swimmer plans to share her messages on college campuses, as well as introduce legislation in her home state of Illinois that keeps men out of their sports as well as their locker rooms.
It's definitely hard to do in the state of Illinois, since there's some people that are very obstinate about it, but we're really encouraged to see the people that I have spoken with. They're not, they do agree. They agree that men should not be changing in women's locker rooms. Men should not be in women's sports. It's about protecting our children. It's protecting women in reality.
Now, advocates like Caitlin have their work cut out for them. Since 2020, just 23 states have passed similar laws banning transgender athletes from competing in women's sports. I'm Dave Martin for NTD News.
And now we're heading to Jane Werrell in the UK for some short headlines from around the world.
Morning, Evelyn and Kevin. Italian authorities are investigating a crash site after a bus carrying tourists veered off the road and landed close to railway lines yesterday evening. 21 people died and 15 were injured. The electric bus was returning from a day trip to Venice. After crashing through a guardrail, it fell more than 33 feet and caught fire. Canada wants private talks with India to resolve a diplomatic dispute over the murders of a Sikh separatist leader. Reports say India had asked the country to withdraw 41 diplomats, or else they would lose diplomatic immunity. Neither the Foreign Minister nor Prime Minister Justin Trudeau responded when asked if the report was accurate. 3 members of a Filipino fishing vessel, including its captain, have died. The Philippine Coast Guard said the boat was hit by an unidentified commercial vessel near the Scarborough Shoal. The Scarborough Shoal has been a flashpoint for tensions between the Philippines and China. A wooden boat carrying over 270 migrants arrived yesterday on the westernmost of the Spanish Canary Islands after making a perilous journey from Africa. Red Cross workers said this was the most crammed vessel they have seen. The 7 islands of the archipelago have become the main destination for migrants trying to reach Spain. A Russian court sentenced a former state TV journalist to 8.5 years in jail in Absentia. Marina Ovsyannikova burst into a live news broadcast less than 3 weeks after Russia invaded Ukraine with a placard that read, "Stop the war and they're lying to you." She then fled Russia with her daughter to an unspecified European country. Well, that's all from me. Back to you both.
When we come back, a mercury compound is in flu vaccines. It was supposedly taken out, but now it's back in children's vaccines. An investigator tells us how to keep safe from this neurotoxin when we come back.
Hi everyone watching at home. We're here to remind you that if you or someone you know were injured in an accident that was not your fault, listen up. We have live agents available right now to answer your questions and tell you how much your case is potentially worth. Hi, I'm Gina Bellich, here with spokesman and TV personality Tom Mustin with us in the Help Center. So Tom, phones are really busy over there. Tell us what kind of calls you're seeing.
Well, Gina, first off, thank you for having me here in the call center with you. We always enjoy talking to the viewers and getting folks the compensation that they deserve. You know, we're seeing calls about all kinds of accidents, but the most common by far has been car accidents. So if you or someone you know were injured in an accident that was not your fault, give us a call right now. You'll speak with a live person. They'll answer any questions you have and tell you if you have a case and how much your case is potentially worth.
Thanks, Tom. All right, folks at home, you heard it. Take advantage of this opportunity and call now.
Papa!
You a doctor, Luke?
He's also a writer.
Did Jesus like telling stories?
He told loads of stories. He talked like that all the time.
But why?
There was once a sower.
There was one young woman who thought the very same.
Man on a 7 journey.
Found the treasure of the great maestro and the 3 talented students.
We need to keep the city safe.
James is getting worried.
Understandably.
Luke, come on! We waited for you for 4 days and you never came.
Imagine a coffee that cares for your health. Expertly fermented with a 50 enzyme complex to enhance flavor and remove bitterness. Small batch roasted to a decadent medium dark, resulting in a brew that is gentle on digestion, low acid, and up to 90% less caffeine than regular coffee. Try America's first enzyme fermented coffee today.
It's good to have you back with us. Parents, listen up. Are you considering giving your kids a flu shot this season? If so, beware of a neurotoxin that's in them. It's a mercury compound. We're going to learn more about what harm it can do and how to keep it away from your kids. Megan Redshaw, attorney and investigative journalist, joins us now. Thank you for your time, Megan. What is thimerosal, this neurotoxin in vaccines?
Thimerosal is an organic mercury compound. It's been used since the 1930s as a preservative in vaccines. It's about 50% or 49.6% mercury by weight. And it was removed from vaccines, or supposed to be removed from vaccines, phased out somewhere between 2000 and 2003. But it was then reintroduced into vaccines in the influenza vaccines, which are recommended currently by the CDC for all individuals, including pregnant women and children.
Right, those are children's vaccines that this thimerosal has been reintroduced to. So how can parents keep their kids safe from this?
Well, first of all, I think that they need to check the CDC's website. There's a list of the vaccines that they offer each year. This year, they're using all quadrivalent vaccines, which mean that there are influenza vaccines designed for 4 strains of the influenza virus. And they need to look and see if those vaccines contain mercury, or it will be called thimerosal or ethyl mercury. And there are several influenza vaccines that contain up to 25 micrograms of thimerosal.
What can thimerosal do to the brain?
Well, mercury is like the second most naturally occurring toxic substance on the planet. So when you get a vaccine and it contains ethyl mercury, that doesn't just leave your body with no effects. It gets stored in your brain and in your tissue. Some of it's eliminated, but a lot of it's not eliminated. And over time, that can have very neurotoxic effects on the human body. There's been over 75 years of research that has shown that all forms of mercury, including ethyl mercury, is not safe for humans in general, but especially children.
So walk us through this process. When parents are reviewing this and they see there's some mercury there, they should just stop?
Well, there are forms of influenza vaccines that do not contain mercury. Obviously, you want to stay away from the live vaccine, the live influenza vaccine, and you want to stay away from anything that has thimerosal in it. I'm not sure on the specific brand names that don't include the thimerosal. I just know that the CDC has a list, and it states which vaccines have the thimerosal, and I would definitely avoid that one if you are a parent who has young kids and you're considering getting the influenza vaccine for them.
That is such an important note that you bring up here, Megan. And I was just recently in Florida, and there was a young man who suffered a pulmonary embolism because of the COVID vaccine, which had a lipid nanoparticle, this delivery mechanism in it. And his mother said that that type of delivery mechanism was used just because it was cheaper. So, of course, vaccine safety is very important. Do you have any final remarks for us?
Well, I would just say that this is one preservative that does not need to be in vaccines. The CDC, the EPA, the FDA, they all say we should avoid mercury. Pregnant women need to avoid eating tuna and fish contaminated with mercury. Granted, it's methyl mercury, but it's still an organic form of mercury, just like ethyl mercury. So it's crazy to think that we should avoid all forms of mercury, but the ethyl mercury that is contained in some of these vaccines, both the influenza vaccines and the multi-vial vaccines, when your kid goes in and gets a combo shot, is somehow safe for the human body. It's not safe, not even close.
Well, thanks for helping everyone stay safe in regards to this. Megan Redshaw, attorney and investigative journalist, thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it was good talking to her, and vaccine safety is so important. And while the COVID vaccine was rolled out to protect the public, React 19, as part of this documentary that I mentioned, is actually representing 30,000 Americans who got serious injuries from the COVID-19 vaccine.
Yeah, that's definitely good to know and good to bring to the surface. But right now, we are changing tunes a little bit because we're talking about panda diplomacy. Have you heard of that?
Not until now.
Well, it seems panda diplomacy between the U.S. and China has failed. The Washington, D.C. National Zoo is set to return 3 giant pandas to China in early December, with no signs that the 50-year-old exchange agreement made by former President Nixon will continue. NTD Jeremy Sandberg will tell us more about that.
National Zoo officials are treating their 3-year pandas' remaining months as the end of an era and have remained tight-lipped about the possibility of an agreement extension or renewal, recently finishing a week-long celebration called Panda Palooza, a giant farewell. Some veteran China hawks say it's part of a larger trend and suspect it's a retaliatory move. China expert Dennis Wilder from Georgetown University called it punitive panda diplomacy, saying 2 other American zoos have lost their pandas in recent years as agreements expire, with zoos in Scotland and Australia facing similar situations.
They're angry over the semiconductor restrictions, the number of sanctions that the Biden administration has placed on Chinese individuals, problems Chinese have now getting visas to the United States. So it could well be possible that they're trying to send a signal.
China currently lends out 65 pandas to 19 countries through what it calls cooperative research programs. The communist regime leases the pandas to the U.S. on a typical 10-year renewable term. The fee ranges from $1 to $2 million a year per pair, plus mandatory costs to build and maintain housing facilities. Any cub born to the pandas belongs to the Chinese regime, but can be leased for an additional fee until it reaches mating age. The pandas return to China when they reach old age. Any cubs are sent back when they reach 3 or 4 years old. Panda-related tensions have even spilled into the hallways of the U.S. Senate. Pennsylvania Democrat John Fetterman complained about China buying up American farmland last week and suggested the U.S. seize it if the pandas are taken. Soon the only giant pandas left in the U.S. will be at the Atlanta Zoo, with their loan agreement expiring late next year. Jeremy Sandberg, NTD News.
Seems this panda dispute is kind of a microcosm of the tensions between U.S. and China. I just hope that the pandas are okay when they exchange them.
That's right. At the same time, though, China was able to rake in quite a bit of money through that.
I see.
Right, and it looks like it's 8 a.m., so that means we're kicking off the second part of our broadcast right now. Presidential hopeful Robert F. Kennedy is reportedly set to run as an independent. Will he have a chance at securing the White House, and how will this affect the race between frontrunners in both major parties? A reporter brings us an informed perspective.
The House of Representatives will need to elect a new speaker after the ousting of Kevin McCarthy. We have reactions to the historic move.
A Michigan mayor indicted for bribery. Find out what prosecutors accuse him of offering in return for cash.
One Texas company is on course to launch the first commercial moon landing. If successful, it would mark the first soft landing on the moon by a U.S. craft since 1972.
Keep forgetting where you left your keys. Results from a new study show some common household fruits could boost memory and reduce inflammation.
Welcome back and good morning to all of you joining us. And you know, speaking of forgetting keys, you can put a little device on it, and that's one way to keep track of them.
One way to keep it, but unfortunately, yeah, that's right. I should do that. I never did that. I keep forgetting my keys everywhere.
But healthy eating is a good option there too.
Yeah. Solve the problem from the source. All right, we're revisiting our top news at this point. Congressman Kevin McCarthy was voted out as House Speaker last night. 8 Republicans joined a majority of Democrats in ousting him through a motion to vacate. It's the first time in U.S. history the House has successfully voted to remove its Speaker. NTD's Jeremy Sandberg has more on McCarthy's removal.
The office of Speaker of the House of the United States House of Representatives is hereby declared vacant.
In a historic vote of 216 to 210 Tuesday, the House voted to remove McCarthy from his Speaker position, leaving the Republican Party's leadership in question. Lawmakers attempted to stop the process with a vote to table the motion, but failed. 11 Republicans opposed it in a vote of 208 to 218. A number of Republicans came to McCarthy's defense during an intense debate, but not enough to keep McCarthy in the Speaker's role. The 8 Republicans that joined Democrats in the vote are Representatives Matt Gaetz, Andy Biggs, Ken Buck, Tim Burchett, Eli Crane, Bob Good, Nancy Mace, and Matt Rosendale. McCarthy, after the vote, said the matter was personal.
You all know Matt Gaetz.
And that he doesn't regret efforts to negotiate, build coalitions, and find solutions.
I believe I can continue to fight, maybe in a different manner. I will not run for Speaker again. I'll have the conference pick somebody else.
House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries reacted, saying it was a solemn and sober moment. He asked House Republicans to live up to their traditional ideals and break from what he called extremists to end the chaos.
We are ready, willing, and able to work together with our Republican colleagues, but it is on them to join us to move the Congress and the country forward.
The move to oust McCarthy came after he cut a deal with Democrats to push through a temporary spending bill to avoid a government shutdown. Congressman antagonist Matt Gaetz filed the motion Monday saying McCarthy had relied on Democrat votes, reneged on promises, and had allegedly made secret backroom deals with Democrats on Ukraine.
I think that this represents the ripping off of the Band-Aid.
It took 15 rounds for McCarthy to win the gavel this year. He held it for 9 months. To secure the speakership, McCarthy agreed to accept a rule change that allows a single member to bring forth a motion to vacate at any time. The last time the U.S. House voted on a motion to vacate was in 1910. It was unsuccessful. Representative Patrick McHenry is serving as interim speaker under the title of Speaker pro tempore. GOP representatives say a vote on a new speaker is planned for next week, Wednesday, but that it will be a challenge to find anyone with enough support from both parties to win the gavel. Jeremy Sandberg, NTD News.
We're going to explore more about the first speaker being removed by a House vote. Now that House Speaker McCarthy has been ousted, what's next?
Well, the next order of business is they must elect a new speaker. Without a new speaker, they can't do the other business of the House. The Speaker pro tem only has the power to administer votes sufficient to elect a new speaker.
So who could replace McCarthy?
There are a number of people. I think the most likely person is going to be Steve Scalise. Steve Scalise is certainly one of the candidates. You've seen several people say they would love to see Donald Trump there. It is constitutionally permitted for any person, any American citizen, to be elected Speaker of the House. It's highly unlikely that they would elect Donald Trump or that he would do it if elected, but that is a constitutional possibility. Another candidate is Tom Emmer. He's in the leadership now. He's the number 2 person after, first one after Steve Scalise. Both good candidates. Emmer has said, even after McCarthy said he wouldn't run, Emmer has said he's not interested in running. Scalise has made a few comments to people. He's quietly collecting votes, counting votes, seeing whether he has support.
We've seen Speaker McCarthy preside over the negotiations to raise the debt ceiling here. Now, the House plans to leave for a week, and then they'll be back for a Speaker election next Wednesday. But what does this all mean about the cohesion among House Republicans?
Oh, there's never been such a thing as cohesion among elected Republicans. The Democrats are always cohesive because what they care about is power. The Republicans care about principle. And those who care about power try to make deals, and those who care about principle are willing to blow up deals to fight for principle. And that's what you're seeing. They will cohere eventually around a speaker candidate, whether it's Scalise or Emmer or Jim Jordan or somebody else, but they will cohere around a speaker. And I don't think it will take as long as it took to elect Kevin McCarthy.
Excellent analysis. Bart Marcois, former presidential campaign policy advisor, thank you for your time.
Thanks, Kevin. It's a pleasure, as always.
Staying with politics, we get some insight into what RFK Jr.'s reported independent run for the White House could mean for the 2024 election. We're bringing in Jeff Louderback, reporter for the Epic Times, live. Good morning, Jeff. Great to have you with us.
Good morning.
So, does RFK Jr. have more of a chance of becoming president as an independent than a Democratic candidate?
Well, his campaign, and he seems to think so, because with the Democratic Party, the Democratic National Committee, they weren't really giving him the opportunity to have what he deems a fair primary election. So that's what led to this.
Yeah, and he even put out a statement saying that the DNC is changing the rules and it's excluding his candidacy, so the independent run is the only way to go. Do you think that Kennedy's run as an independent would take more votes away from Trump or Biden?
Well, a poll that the American Values 2024 PAC, which supports the RFK Jr. campaign, they came out with a poll they commissioned with Zogby Strategies, and that was released on Monday, so that was earlier this week, and it determined that Trump, if there was a three-way race to start out, Trump and Biden have 38% and Kennedy has 19%. And their feeling is, with running as an independent, they have 13 months to build momentum, to keep building momentum. And they feel pretty confident about their chances as an independent versus being a Democrat.
That's interesting because normally independents don't have too much luck securing the White House, given that U.S. politics is dominated by two parties. But our first president, George Washington, was the only independent that secured the White House. So it's interesting. So what should voters know about RFK Jr.?
Well, that's the important part that I talked to a couple strategists who told me the key for being, 13 months, having 13 months to get his message out is voters getting to know him, because he has a platform that talks about healing the divide and unity. He talks about fighting corporate corruption. His message resonates with people of all political spectrums. I found that the most interesting thing when I go to these town hall tours, he gets a lot of support from people who supported Donald Trump in 2016 and 2020. And the reasoning I get, some people said it reminds them of the enthusiasm of 2016 when Trump was a true outsider. And then another is that I had one person tell me that he finds Trump exhausting now. And so it would be interesting to see. It seems like all the legal issues that President Trump has galvanizes his base. But what will be interesting to see is, will he get the independents and the moderates? And RFK Jr. has support from pretty much everyone except for progressives.
A lot to look out for as this unfolds here. And as an environmental lawyer and a vaccine opponent, he does have a unique base and backing. So, Jeff Louderback, reporter for the Epoch Times, thank you.
Thank you.
A federal appeals court has expanded the limits on the Biden administration's communications with social media companies.
The court now says a ruling will apply to a top U.S. cybersecurity agency as well.
The ruling came last month from the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals located in New Orleans. It severely limits the ability of the administration to communicate with social media companies.
Specifically on content related to COVID and elections that the government views as misinformation. The previous ruling applied to the White House, the Surgeon General, the CDC, and the FBI.
And now, in a new opinion, the court says it also applies to the U.S. Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency.
The agency is charged with protecting non-military networks from hacking and other homeland security threats.
A suburban Detroit mayor faces federal bribery charges.
He allegedly demanded $50,000 to facilitate the sale of city property.
The indictment says the mayor of Inkster, Michigan, Patrick Wimberly, accepted the bribes from September 2022 to April 2023.
Prosecutors say the bribes began at $5,000 per month until Wimberly demanded more when they increased to $10,000.
Wimberly faces up to 10 years in prison and a $250,000 fine if convicted. He's running for re-election this November.
Heading to break, all may not be as it appears. That's what some celebrities are saying about deepfake AI videos circulating online.
Police are looking for a suspect in connection with the murder of a New York activist who died after being repeatedly stabbed in front of his girlfriend in a random attack.
And a new study shows promise for several household fruits that can boost memory and improve cognitive function. I gotta get some. Let's learn more after the break.
Shen Yun Symphony Orchestra, coming to Lincoln Center, David Geffen Hall, October 22nd. Tickets at shenyunsymphony.com.
Stay tuned to get 2 rolls of Alien Tape free. You wouldn't stick your mother-in-law on the wall, but you could with Alien Tape. It just sticks. Just peel and stick to make anything stay in place quick. Brick, pavers, marble, tile, plastic, even leather. Nothing works better than Alien Tape. You wouldn't stick your fishbowl on a moving car, but you could with Alien Tape. The secret is nano-stick technology that grabs and locks on to secure one side of the surface to the other. Alien Tape secures in seconds, then twist, pull, and rinse to reuse. Call or go online to get your first roll of Alien Tape for just $19.99, plus shipping and processing. But to make this deal really stick, we'll give you 2 more rolls absolutely free. You get 3 rolls of Alien Tape for one low price. Order now.
To order, call 1-800-490-1364 or go to tryalientape.com. So call 1-800-490-1364 or order online at tryalientape.com.
It's just clear as day. The media, whether it's broadcast, cable, or print media, has become extremely biased. And I started looking online for alternative ways to get information. And I saw an ad for a free trial. And I looked at it and I said, Epoch Times. I mean, come on, this is end of days type of stuff. I mean, what are they going to be talking about here? And I said, well, it's a free trial. Let me dig in. Is it giving me both sides? Is it giving me an objective point of view here? I have looked for opportunities to see where they might be biased, and I don't find it. It has given me a level of trust in media that I didn't think I'd ever get back. I love the Epoch Times because it has renewed my faith in the idea that a reliable, responsible, non-biased source of information is available. And I can say that I love it because of that.
Anyone who's ever sold a home will tell you it's really hard. And it's one of the biggest financial decisions you'll ever make. That's why who you work with matters. Together with HomeLight, we take care of every detail.
Activist and poet has been stabbed to death in New York City.
The random attack on 32-year-old Ryan Carson happened in the early hours of Monday morning next to a bus stop in Brooklyn. And please be warned, this story contains footage you may find distressing.
Ryan Carson and his girlfriend were on their way home from a wedding. According to surveillance footage, a man passed them and started kicking scooters parked nearby. The man approached Carson and his girlfriend in a threatening manner before stabbing Carson repeatedly. Carson died before paramedics could take him to hospital.
The suspect then ran away. Moments later, the footage shows an unknown woman entering the scene. Police believe the woman and the assailant knew each other.
No arrests have been made. Police issued a wanted poster showing a close-up of the suspect wearing a black Champion sweatshirt. No murder weapon has been recovered. The suspect reportedly threw the weapon in a pile of trash before quickly going back to retrieve it.
According to his LinkedIn account, Carson worked at the New York Public Interest Research Group. He was also an environmental activist as well as a published poet.
According to friends, he was kind-hearted and brought many in the local community together. And the U.S. Army has fallen short of recruiting targets for the second year in a row.
The aim was 65,000, but they only managed 55,000. That's 15% off their goal. The Armed Services Branch is trying to tweak things to fix the problem. They're looking for new ways to recruit people, like looking for those with more education instead of focusing on high school graduates. They also want to use the internet and job fairs to find new recruits. Despite the recruitment miss, the Army did see success with retention rates. It also managed to meet its end strength goal for the year of over 450,000 active duty soldiers.
Star YouTuber Mr. Beast is sounding the alarm on AI deepfakes. He wants social media companies to take action.
This after scammers posted a phony video of him to rip off his millions of followers.
The video was shared on TikTok and seemed to show him offering free iPhones to those who clicked on a link. Others have shared similar concerns.
Gail King from CBS News shared part of a video that used her likeness for a weight loss product. King wrote fake video across her AI likeness and said she had nothing to do with this company.
Tom Hanks recently shared a similar tale. The actor says he did not give his permission for an AI version of him used in a dental plan promotional video.
The star said on Sunday he has nothing to do with the advertisement. Using AI to create virtual actors has become one of Hollywood's hottest topics as one of the issues driving the ongoing actor strike.
Well, guess we're asking again, can regulations actually keep up with tech development or AI development in that case specifically?
Yes, AI is very powerful, but obviously, it needs to be reined in.
That's right.
And we're going to go to Instagram now, ad-free Instagram. For $14 a month, reporters say Meta is looking to charge Europeans for this subscription plan. Could it come to the U.S.? NTD's Faye Quarter has more.
Meta is proposing an ad-free version of Instagram for Europeans, according to the Wall Street Journal. Europeans may get two choices: either pay the equivalent of $14 a month for ad-free Instagram, or continue using the platform for free by seeing targeted ads. This proposal is a response to EU regulations, which may restrict Meta's ability to show targeted ads.
Ad-free Instagram would be great. Most of us get way too many ads and find it really distracting.
Robbie Kellman-Baxter is the author of The Forever Transaction and The Membership Economy. Even though she likes the idea, she doesn't know whether it'll happen in the U.S.
They're going to prefer the most revenue that's allowed in the country. So unless regulators come down hard on privacy protection, I don't know that they'll be that motivated to do it.
Ads are crucial for Meta's business. A move by European regulators to restrict them would endanger its main revenue stream.
I don't know if everyone realizes the importance of ads. I mean, that's what keeps the lights on for these companies. The servers, the staff, all of that maintains the platform. That's covered by advertising revenue.
Chris Alexander helped write the first ever social media guidance for the military. He says the ad-free subscription tier may work. People seem to be willing to spend more on experiences, and they've also become dependent on these platforms. Meta may roll out this ad-free version in the coming months, according to the Wall Street Journal. Faye Quarter, NTD News.
I don't know if I personally can see, myself especially, paying for an ad-free version of Instagram. And I mean, Meta, like they say, Meta's business model, I guess, is very heavily reliant on ad operators.
Yeah, the question is it worth it? And Meta is obviously a very successful company, so it seems they may be able to anticipate an ROI on this.
Yeah, seems so. Well, moving on, the moon may soon be open for business. A Texas-based firm hopes to make the first landing on the moon by a commercial spacecraft before the year ends.
This could mean a SpaceX rocket could launch the first commercial lunar lander within weeks.
So from the time we launch to the time we land is less than 7 days. Once we're on the surface of the moon, we will operate as long as the sun is in the sky, which for the moon will be about 12 to 13 days. Unfortunately, once the sun goes down, it gets extremely cold at the moon, and the vehicle systems will most likely freeze, and that'll be the end of the first mission. It will not return.
We're only beginning to understand the materials on the moon. And I think there's materials that are worth something, not only from a science and discovery standpoint, but maybe from a consumer goods standpoint.
The Nova C probe is the brainchild of Texas firm Intuitive Machines. The company is showing off the craft today before shipping it to the Kennedy Space Center in Florida.
A launch could happen as early as mid-November. The mission is part of a NASA project to make moon trips more efficient by letting private firms bid on delivering gear to the moon.
According to the president of Intuitive Machines, the long-term goal is to turn the moon into a profitable destination for private enterprise.
If successful, Nova C will make the first soft landing on the moon by a U.S. craft since the last Apollo mission in 1972. NASA's new Artemis program plans to land astronauts on the moon again by late 2025. And now to Germany, where archaeologists are using a unique method to search for ancient treasures and remains at excavation sites. Specially trained dogs are assisting with sniffing out bones that date back thousands of years. NTD's Cost M&S takes us on a tour to find out what they discovered.
Archaeologist Birgit Ansenberger was assisted by the elite canine team at an excavation site in Bavaria.
We are here in an area that was inhabited during the Iron Age, the Hallstatt period, that is, the early Celtic period. We probably have a settlement from that time. And we additionally have the Roman road running through here.
One by one, the dogs are let free to sniff through the site, under the guidance of their owners, looking for the scent of bone remains that could indicate potential burial sites. Dietmar Kröpel is the founder of RKO Dogs.
We meet at an excavation site, and then the first dog searches over this limited area as it wants to search. It can go left, right, how it thinks it has to search, where it gets its scent from. And the search gives us certain insights. Either the dog shows nothing at all, or it has interesting spots, or it barks immediately.
Kröpel says 2 years of training is needed for a dog to become an RKO dog. The dogs typically have a hit ratio of over 90% and can smell bones as deep as 45 feet.
So Banya has indicated here, without barking, but clearly sitting down and indicating that there is a smell here, a bone smell. This could be a residual smell from the burial chambers. It could also be that there is still bone material in the excavation. And now we get the second dog to verify, but we don't tell the dog handler the result of Banya.
Some of the dogs also receive additional training to help police with cold cases. Kröpel and his team volunteer to spend many of their weekends traveling all over Germany. Excited to contribute to history and research, which Kröpel says he sees as greatly rewarding. Costa Menes, NTD News.
Give a dog a bone.
There you go. But listen, what greater way to put a dog to work than to have them sniff out bones for you?
Yeah, 45 feet deep. That's a super snout.
Yeah, that's true.
And we're going to end with some health news for you this morning. Give your brain a boost by picking up some of these common fruits at the grocery store.
A new study spotlights coconuts, grapes, walnuts, and mangoes as potential healthy foods targeting the brain. They are shown to improve memory, decline, and improve cognitive function.
The secret behind these powerful foods is the way they target inflammation, which is shown to play a significant role in diseases such as Alzheimer's and Parkinson's.
Grape and mangoes. I knew about walnuts. I was always told as a child because they look like a brain.
Yes.
But I didn't know about grape and mangoes.
Yeah, and I've heard blueberries are good antioxidant. I made a blueberry sauce for my French toast this morning. It was really good.
You're already starting to keep healthy. That's great. Yeah. All right. We're ending today's program here. We'd love to hear from you at goodmorning@ntd.com. Write us an email if you'd like. Thanks for watching. I'm Evelyn Lee.
And I'm Kevin Hogan.
Thanks for watching us on YouTube. Did you know YouTube only keeps selective videos on its platform? So if you want to make sure you get the full picture, just subscribe to our newsletter. Go to newsletter.ntd.com and sign up. It's free.